time so we can play among the stars. Come and see what war was like before the coming of Sigmar. In other words, here they are. In other words, that old world charm.
Hello, wonderful denizens of this old world. We are back with another juicy review episode for you. You should be hearing this. You should be hearing this just as the pre-order for the Dwarfen Mountain Holds Arcane Journal goes live this weekend, and we are here to review that bad boy for your viewing and listening pleasure. I'm joined by the full triumvirate of the charmed ones, that being Peter the Falcon. Hello, brother.
Caca!
Says the gyrocopter. They do definitely make cries. That's their war cry. And the sweetest of meats makes his triumphant return after gallivanting from one side of a continent to the same side of the continent, just further away from where he started. Hello, Danny.
Hey, how's it going?
So you went from Washington to Anchorage in Alaska.
Yeah, I mean, it was Idaho, but it was pretty much Washington. So
yeah, you're on the border. Yeah, fence sitter. I always knew it. Anyway, boys. We have a about 90-minute window to get this done, and it should be about perfect because this book is going to be fun to talk about. But We're going to get some hot takes right after we tell you that there's, of course, a part 2 of this podcast. Go over to Patreon, that Old World Charm, and you can get this whole second part, which is going to be answering a slew of questions from our Patreon group, which pretty much extensively covers everything we were going to talk about anyway. What's good, what's bad, what a list look like, what a matchup's going to be like, et cetera, for both of the beautiful builds you can now make with this new book. Boys, both?
There's more than 2. Anyway.
Builds or sub-factions? I was talking about as 2 sub-factions.
Okay. We'll talk.
Technically correct. Technically. Put your fedora on, Peter. Anyway, starting with Peter. What's your hot takes, brother?
So this book is going to make dwarf players, I think, pretty happy. I would say it splits the current kind of like dwarf build into 2 very like separate things. I don't think it's as fun or interesting as Orcs and Goblins was, but there's some really good stuff in it. Like there's some really strong stuff in this book. Overall, you should be very happy with it. I just find that the two options don't really stray completely out there from like what dwarves are already doing.
Correct.
It just kind of specializes you either in like a close combat or a ranged combat kind of style. So
that's exactly my take as well. They stratify or skew you one way or another. Danny, what about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a really good like synopsis. Like, it's basically taking like 2 dwarf archetypes and condensing or like kind of further separating them. So you have one that's more combat based and then one that's more kind of movement and shooting based. So, which is pretty cool. I do like that a lot. And these are cool parts of the dwarf army, like parts that should get focused on. So I think they really nailed it with kind of picking how they did these.
Well, exactly right. So I think, especially with the Arcane Journals, I think there's been a concerted effort to give the players the things that they enjoy about said faction. Like that's what they want to give you. They like people who play dwarves love to either daka or big, dumb, unkillable freaking bricks charging, grinding towards the opponent. And I think that's exactly what this is.
But yeah.
Sorry?
They're a little dumb.
Sure. Hidebound and stubborn. Anyway, we are going to crack right into this starting on page 28. Anybody able to join us in post, because naturally you're not going to be able to have the book in your hands at the time that we do this. But the Dwarfen Mountain Holds Royal Clan is the first of our said sub-factions we're going to be speaking to. Ostensibly, this is the one where if you like brawling, and if you meet as a person who plays against dwarves, who already finds some of their bricks of infantry oppressive and really hard to crack, this will double down on all of that oppressiveness and just make some characters and units off the freaking chain, in addition to giving some really spicy stuff where you would find your Slayers army, which may actually be in your army list now for the first time. All right, but Well, I don't necessarily mean the Slayer like Troll Slayer. I mean,
you will run a type of Slayer.
You will run a type of Slayer, and we will tell you a story in part 2 of how that one type of Slayer absolutely freaking mulliganed some units in a matchup between Peter and I. But this army list, Peter, anything spicy? Anything we need to tell people about?
Yeah, so if you're going to compare this to the main Grand Army book, the big differences are Kings, Rune Lords, and Anvils of Doom are not they're their own beasts now. So it's a 1+ King or Thane. You have to take a King or a Thane, but you can have as many Kings as you want now. It's not like 1 per 1,000, and you're not fighting for slots with the Rune Lord and the Anvil of Doom.
Yep.
The Rune Lord and Anvil of Doom do kind of fight for spots amongst each other. And then you have Runesmiths. Dwarf Warriors are gone. They're replaced with Royal Clan Warriors, which are a little bit spicier. You cannot take anything with guns, essentially, in this list other than Iron Drakes. So anything that's black powder is out. So there's no cannons, there's no organ guns, there's no thunderers. And you're replacing it with some extra special rules. The other thing that's different here than the main book is for your BSB, you can choose to take a Runesmith BSB instead of a Thane if you like, which opens up some interesting stuff in terms of like freeing up points depending on your list build. So
just to completely contradict you, so in the rare slot is where Rangers now inhabit in this one. You can also get your Iron Breakers and Iron Drakes in there. So there's a little bit of black powder, but
Rangers don't have black powder; they have crossbows.
That's fair. Iron Drakes certainly do, though.
Yes, and I mentioned Iron Drakes.
There's my actually, Peter. I get to rebuff you, sir.
But I said that we had Iron Drakes. I don't actually me if I'm being actual myself.
Okay.
Well, wait. You can take handguns on Dwarf Mercenaries. You could take them in this list.
Okay, so if you wanted to take the new Dwarf Mercenary, you can give them handguns, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, which we will be unpacking, of course, when we get to the unit.
There we go. That's a proper actual.
Yes. Okay. So in the Mercenaries, you can take 0-4 Doomseekers and some good old Goblin Hewers, 1 per 1,000, and then of course the Imperial Dwarf Mercenaries we just noted. Over to the special rules that you'll get for your Royal Clan. Ancestral Fury is the first one. During a turn in which a unit in the Royal Clan army makes a charge move of three or more, or made a follow-up move, it gains a +1 modifier to its strength stat characteristic. So +1 strength on the charge and or follow-up, which can be pretty spicy. So one of the downsides, of course, of dwarves is, good toughness, but this high strength only really comes with hammerers, great weapons. Whereas now you can have pretty good strength on everything. Even just a hand weapon kind of gets over one of the major breakpoints in the game. Danny, is this a good rule?
Yeah, it's great. It is the old Resolute rule, kind of, where they got +1 strength on the turn they charged, but now it's also follow-up moves. This makes Longbeard strength 5, so they get even better. And what a great core choice!
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and great weapons on these Royal Clan Warriors coming in at strength 6 now is a great break point. And Doomseekers, which we haven't gotten into, +1 strength on a Doomseeker is wild, given what they already can do.
Oh, that's
so it's this and the next rule really kind of make this list kind of sing.
Continue, mate. Tell us about this next rule.
Well, riches and heirlooms. The royal clans of the dwarves are amongst the wealthiest denizens of the old world, and such extravagance, wealth, I can't read, means they march to war well-equipped with the finest armor and weapons. So in your royal clans lists, any character model gets an additional 25 points to spend on runes. Over what they normally can spend, and all of your standards can spend an additional 25 points on runes, with the exception of the Royal Clan Warriors, which it lists that is already in their point cost.
Man, I'm getting a whiff of Hero Hammer out of this list. It comes pretty thick, especially when you can have any old banner can be premium. Any old banner bearer can be a premium banner, because most of them you have a 25 that goes to 50, and that's the break point for most of the best banners in the game.
And hammerers can have 100 points now.
100. Wild.
And like, so this lets you stack the don't count as charging rune. Like, that's not a master rune, is it?
Nope. Yeah, the Master Rune of Hesitation, I believe, is right, but the other one isn't. So still putting that one, still putting that on your hammerers, which is like an amazing combo and is exactly 80 points. Now you can do that without taking a BSB in that unit. It's real solid.
All right, striking a grudge is the last one. After deployment, but before the first turn begins, nominate a single enemy character. For one reason or another, this individual has earned themselves a place in the clan's book of grudges and must be brought to justice. All friendly models gain hatred. Nominated enemy character. Special rule. In addition, you win a bonus 75 victory points if the nominated character is slain, has fled the battlefield, or is fleeing when the game ends. Now, this is really, really good for a couple of different reasons, but mostly because it's just fun. It's just a little bit of fun. And definitely you should bring like a grudge token, not to be associated with another game and another faction, but you should definitely bring a token to place down that is some kind of gavel, some kind of, heirloom of an ages past. But this one isn't a game changer, right? Because it's just against said character. It's not the unit that they're in. It's not anything like that. So this is actually a really good one to chuck on like a chaff character and just make your opponent not use said chaff character, unless they give up that chaff character's points plus 75.
Yeah, it's just a nice extra tidbit. The hatred against them makes it something you may want to consider in a game against a big dragon, where you're now getting that +1 strength and stuff. A lot of your weapons are going to be AP3 now, smacking into these guys. But yeah, generally I would put it on whatever crappy chaff character, like a Night Goblin boss or something, so that you're getting 110 points out of them instead of 30. So
yep. Now, in true old world fashion, the layout of said books ain't premium. I would love it if the relevant Royal Clan units were below the Royal Clan, kind of army list. But no, we go straight into the Expeditionary Force from here, and so you're going to get the full context of all the special rules before we unpack any of the spicy new units. But Danny, do you have a hot take on the Expeditionary Force?
Yeah, I like the composition of the list. Although I was a little bit bummed not to see Quarrelers, because I think I like Quarrelers better than Thunderers, but at least you can upgrade the Thunderers to be Expeditionary Marksmen, which is really nice.
And that's to denote that Thunderers are core here, yeah?
Yeah. Thunderers are core, along with Dwarf Warriors and Carts, and they can take a unit of Rangers per 1,000 as core.
Yep. And the new Scout Gyrocopter, which is a slightly worse gyrocopter, but having them in your core slot, whereas the Royal Mountain Cannons can't take gyrocopters at all, it's a nice little bonus.
Yeah. And you pointed out one of the major downsides of the Royal Host when we get to part 2 and start unpacking some of the bigger upsides and downsides. Yeah, complete lack of chaff is going to come up for the Royal Host enjoyer. But Peter, anything in this army list that points out to you?
It's really cool. This is a list where you cannot take a king. You can only take Fiends and Runesmiths, no Rune Lords. And instead, engineers are the way to go. It's a 1+ engineer or the new engineer sapper for your units. And your engineers can be your BSBs as well. There's a lot of really cool stuff, but it's the real sauce in this list. Even though you do lose access to Quarrelers and you lose access to like Longbeards and Hammerers and Iron Drakes and things like that, the special rules make this like such a powerful mobile gun line.
Jump right in, mate. Tell us the first one.
Yeah, so the first one's Expeditionary Marksman. So 1 unit of Thunderers per 1,000 points can be upgraded to Expeditionary Marksman for 1 point for model, as well as any engineer in your list may be upgraded for an additional 10 points. And what this does is it lets you ignore any penalty to hit modifiers for moving and shooting. So your Thunderers can now bump up that 3 or now 4 inches if you're taking the new cart, and still shoot at full ballistic skill, which is a great little have and kind of puts them, I would say, on par with Quarrelers, because they don't lose out on that big range anymore as much.
Yeah.
It's just range difference effectively, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In addition, the upgrade for the engineer is something we're going to be unpacking when we get further down, because you can make some savage engineers that don't take move and shoot penalties. All right, form over function. When writing your muster list, you may reduce the toughness characteristic of any of the following war machines by 1 to a minimum of 1. Cannon, organ gun, flame cannon. But why would you do this? Any war machine that has its toughness reduced in this way also loses the move or shoot special. So you can hoof it with your war machines should you want. I'm just imagining, 9, 10 war machines lined up on the line, just moving towards your opponent, unafraid. Of course, you can't have that many. But never mind. What do we think about this one, Danny? Is this any good, or is this just like, why would I do this? I'm never going to move him anyway.
Yeah, I think this is great. It gives you the option to, and God, you can take 10 war machines in this list too.
I know, you totally can.
You can do it. But I like it on the flame cannon, especially since that thing has such a limited range, being able to move it to get a flank shot, or the organ gun, or even a cannon flank shot would be really good. All these choices are good choices.
Yeah.
If I'm being totally honest.
I love it on the cannon because of grape shot. Your opponent comes right in your face, and your unit or whatever that's supposed to block them off dies. And then you shift, that 3 inches off to the right a little bit, or 4 inches off to the right. And then boom, grape shot right to the face. It gets you, there's going to be a lot of games where you never use this. And then there's going to be that handful of games where you're just going to blow down a line of knights or something, and it's going to make it worth it. Right. So.
All right. Danny, tell us about the last special rule.
So the last rule is called Subterranean Ambush. Whilst the rest of the expeditionary force marches,
he's doing it
from above the ground, teams of miners attempt to encircle the enemy from below. If your army includes a unit of miners, you may, after both sides have deployed, but before the first turn of the game begins, deploy 2 30-millimeter round bases. They're called mine markers. Place 1 additional marker for each unit of miners in your army. These markers can be deployed anywhere on the battlefield, but not within the enemy player's deployment zone, 12 inches of another mine marker, 6 inches of an enemy unit, or 5 inches of a special feature or objective marker. When a unit of miners would arrive from the battlefield, or arrive on the battlefield from reserves, it can be placed anywhere on the battlefield within 6 inches of a mine marker, but not within 6 inches of an enemy unit. The unit cannot charge during the turn and counts as having moved for purposes of shooting, but otherwise can act as normal.
This is wild.
I love this.
Those bubbles are so fucking big.
They're huge.
If you take 3 units of miners, you get 4 blips. I'm calling them blips, guys. It's just what we're doing. And it's like half the board is now places you can go. This is such a great ability. It makes miners worth it, in my opinion, to take, because you can do so many cool things with them. I love this rule.
Yeah, I agree. I think this rule is, the most fun of the 3. The other 2 are just power and just flexibility. This is just spicy jank. And I think it adds a lot to the dwarf army list. This adds, and you lean into it as far as you want. And I think we'll talk about later, how far do you want to lean into this rule? And what points investment do you need to make this a real thing, to make this a play in your army, rather than it just being something that's nice to have? But I think the rule is sick. I love it. It's everything I want a dwarf to have. All right, we are into our special characters. The first of which is Thorgrim, the not quite king yet of Damaz Kron. He is 250 points. Movement 3, weapon skill 6, bliss skill 4, strength 4, toughness 5, 3 wounds, initiative 3, 3 attacks, leadership 10. He's heavy infantry. He has a hand weapon, a grudge settler, the grudge stone, the armor of Skaldor, and a shield. He has special rules of Grumble armor, grudge law, hatred, orcs and goblins, magic, which is 1, rallying cry, resolute, and stubborn. The grudge law is once Thorgrim has set up the grudge stone, see below. Why would they not just put the grudge stone first if they're both connected? But anyway, he has joined, replaces the hatred, orcs and goblins special rule with the hatred all enemies special rule. So as soon as he gets up on the stone, he's spewing some vitriol and everyone's down to clown. And then the grudge stone, during the start of end of turn sub phase, Thorgrim may set the Grudgestone. Once set, Thorgrim and any unit is joined gains the Unbreakable special rule and automatically passes any panic checks they are required to make. However, once the Grudgestone has been set, Thorgrim and his unit cannot choose to flee as a charge reaction and cannot move other than to give ground to make follow-up moves or to reform. The fact you can still make follow-up moves to trigger the +1 strength is really quite cute. And then the armor of Skuldor. The army of Skuldor is a suit of heavy armor. In addition, its wearer has a 4+ ward save against a killing blow or against any wounds suffered that were caused by an attack that has the multiple wounds X special rule. Good suit of armor. Not amazing though. Like, so his armor save is not actually that wild. He's got a 4-up. He's got a 4-up. Yeah. Well, he's got a 4-up against things that are going to punk him, but he's only got the old 3 wounds. And then Grudge Settler is range combat, strength +2, which will be strength 6 rather. AP -1, armor bane 1 magical attacks. The Grudge Settler is inscribed with the Master Rune of Smiting and the Rune of Parrying, as described on page 33 and 34.
So D6 damage and multiple wounds D6, and he is -1 to hit in close combat.
Yep. Not bad. Tad is 250 rack up to, a kitted out king in exchange. Like if you had a kitted out king, would it be more or less expensive than Thorgrim?
I would say so. Thorgrim's kind of, I think he's supposed to actually be a Thane, which is but he's got a king stat line,
which is important.
Yeah. So he's considered a Thane for special rules, but he has a king stat line, which is really like very good. Because there's no Thane that can take a Rune of Smiting and a Rune of Parrying, right? That's like 130 points of, or 105 points of magic items, right? Runes, I should say. So he's cheap for what he does, I would say. It's just, like, is he worth it? His weapon's really cool. He does only have a 4+ armor save against a lot of stuff that you're going to get hit with, which is not cool. Making a unit unbreakable, though, even though you can no longer charge afterwards, is pretty sick. Anytime you can get unbreakable, and with Thorgrim, it's like any unit in the dwarf book. Sky's the limit for what you want to make unbreakable, right? So, and I mean,
the not moving thing isn't quite true, right? Because you can have a drilled unit that kind of changes the shape of the unit and thereby gets movement. And it increases or decreases influence on the board turn by turn. So you can do some pretty spicy things, like prior to chucking down that runestone. Grudgestone.
Yeah, I mean, and hatred everything is always good. So
for sure. What units do you think he goes in?
I think there's a couple units that are probably pretty good for him. I think hammers or longbeards are natural choices. Ironbreakers are probably another good choice for being a really annoying unit to try and get rid of. I really like him in the Expeditionary Force.
Yep, because he's a thing.
It's the only way to get Leadership 10 in there, which is pretty solid.
Yep, getting a leadership 10 in that list is pretty cool. You can make your Thunderers also unbreakable, which is not bad on top of all the other special rules you can give them. Because when we talk about the sappers and stuff later, like you can make a unit of Thunderers, which is pretty disgusting. Period. I also just like them with plain Jane warriors because unbreakable is such a powerful rule to have on a big blob of stuff. Yeah. Having a bunch of dudes with like a 4-up armor save with a possible rerolls from an Anvil of Doom that are unbreakable is just a good thing to have. And then if you put like a second choppy character with him, you'll go a long way, right? So
I was going to say the new Royal Clan Warriors, if you're playing the Royal Host and Thorgrim, go together really damn well.
Yeah, they're a pretty sweet little package.
All right, Peter, seeing as I know you have played with this model, tell us about Ungrim.
Fucking right. Oh, man. Ungrim Ironfist, the Slayer King of Karak Kadrin, the man who has been through so much. Guys, Ungrim. Oh. Like, how do you balance dealing with a ancestral Slayer oath and an oath to your kingdom? you just get really, really grumpy. So Ungrim is a king. He is not a slayer. He is not considered a slayer of legend for any of those rules, which is important for some other things. However, dude is movement 3. He's weapon skill 9. So the only things that are close to him is like a bloodthirster at weapon skill 10, I think, is the only other thing that's this high in the game. Ballistic skill 4, doesn't matter. Strength 4, toughness 6. Wounds 3, initiative 5. He's the fastest dwarf in the land. He's got 4 attacks each. He's leadership 10. He's 315 points. So you're like, he is not cheap, but he gives you so much. He has the Axe of Dargo, the Slayer Crown, light armor. He comes with Death Blow, Grombril armor, Hatred of Orcs and Goblins, immune to psychology. He's king of the Slayer Hold. He has Magic Resist 2, Rallying Cry, Resolute Slayer, and he is unbreakable.
Unfreaking breakable.
He's so good. King of the Slayer Hold. So this is when I was hinting at the beginning where I talked about there's kind of like a third a grand army in here, because if you take Ungrim as your general in a royal clans, specifically a royal clans list, he makes it a Slayer Hold list instead. And when you do that, he may join a unit of Hammerers or a unit of Slayers, even though he doesn't have the loner rule. Any unit of Hammerers he joins gains immune to psychology and unbreakable from him, as long as he's within the unit, which is already crazy. In addition, you may now take Dragon Slayers and Demon Slayers, because you normally cannot in that army list. Slayers become core, 1 per 1,000. And most importantly, Doom Seekers, instead of being a mercenary unit, are a special choice. And you can take 4 of them per 1,000 points. So if you're not playing with Rule of 3, you can do insane stuff with this list. But even with Rule of 3, Doom Seekers are wild. So the Slayer special rule, we already know what that is. He always rolls on a 2-wound roll of a 4+. He's always successful, regardless of the enemy's toughness. The Slayer Crown is his special armor. It improves his armor value by 2, so he's got a 4+ armor, and he's got a 5+ ward against all wounds. The Axe of Dargo, there is a misprint here. I was already told that there's going to be an FAQ. It lists it as strength 2. It's actually strength +2. So he's a strength 6 character. It's AP 3, and he comes with, and it's Monster Slayer.
How funny would it be to have this like dwarf-sized axe? Like, he is strength 4, but it somehow makes his strength 2 worse.
So he's really good. Is he as good as a special character that you can make like a king that you can make yourself? That's arguable, but like the stuff he brings to the table, if you're willing to bring him in as your general, is great. He's the only option to get Monster Slayer in your list. He's got an amazing stat line. Hammerers, Unbreakable Hammerers is so good on a unit that's already quite good, and especially in that Royal Host list where you can make them basically immune to charging from the front. I love him. He sucks against basic ogre bulls, though. His Monster Slayer does not do enough. He kills like 1 guy a turn.
Got him.
But he's real good.
Well, that's what the Hammerers are for, right? The Hammerers.
It is, especially if you remember that you have the runes you gave them.
Yes, the runes you paid points for. But he's there to stick in a unit of Hammerers so that the dragon doesn't try and crack the Hammerers, because then he insta-gives the dragon, and then they just maul their way through everything else.
Yeah.
So I freaking love Ungrim. I think he is amazing. I think it is arguable. I mean, I only will consider him in a unit of Hammerers. I think that's the only thing that makes sense to me, even though I do want him in other units so he can scare off dragons from preying on like my warriors, my longbeards, and stuff like that. But man, in the Hammerer unit, he's just busto. It's so good.
Yep.
Danny, anything to add?
No, I think you guys nailed it. I think you guys covered it really well. He's a really good character. He costs a lot. Like all these special characters, of course, they cost a pretty penny, but 315 is expensive, but you get a lot for your points there. I think.
Well, what I love about it is that taking Ungrim in the Royal Host gives you Doom Seekers, which then act as your chaff units. Because, of course, when we get to Doom Seekers, and you probably know what this is by now, they give up their points if they don't die.
A
And so-
chaff unit. That is a backbreaking unit.
I
Yeah.
know. I
It's
know.
a
But you know,
backbreaking unit.
it's
so
a
good.
but it's a duality unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not a throwaway unit because you get the points when it dies, and it also will just absolutely mulligan the Bojangles off like 90% of the units in the game. Yeah, it's very cute. But we have one more special character, I believe, and I've left this one to Dan.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I like the old Burlock Damison. Burlock Damison is an engineer model. He's weapon skill 5 over a normal engineer, but he's still strength toughness 4 with 2 wounds, 3 attacks. He is a amazing leadership 10. I didn't pick up on that the first time.
Yep.
Screw, I'm out of love with Thorgrim. Just bring back Burlock Damison.
Bring back Burlock Damison. He's worth it.
He's also got the best name. Like,
Oh, it's so good.
Burlock is the best dwarf name of all time.
And his son or grandson or something is like super important to the lore later. So
Never heard of him.
something Burlockson. I just only remember because his name was
That
Burlockson.
doesn't sound right. Are you sure it's just not the same guy?
It's he just changed his name.
Yeah.
There must
He's
always
like
be a
Nicolas
Burlock.
Cage. Or Keanu Reeves. He just lives
Yeah.
forever
Yeah.
and changes
Yeah.
his name every once in a while. Anyway, so he's got he's 85 points, which is great.
Oh.
He's got a furnace hammer, a rivet gun, and heavy armor. Special rules: he's got dwarf crafted, Grommill armor, hatred orcs and goblins, magic resistance 1, prepared positions, which is a new rule, range finding optics, resolute, stand back chief, and also stubborn. Prepared positions is during deployment, you can entrench a single non-chariot model whose troop trait is war machine and a single unit of quarrelers or thunderers.
So that's
So can you
non-character
just-
model. Sorry. There's some typos.
Yeah, non-character model. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not a character that you can do that to. What character war machine do they have? I guess the anvil.
Yeah. So you can't entrench an
so-
anvil.
Right, which makes sense. An entrenched unit is considered to be behind partial cover and to be defending a low linear obstacle. If you move for any reason, you get out of your hole, you're not entrenched anymore. Amazing rule. And then he's got range finding optics. Unless he's fleeing or engaged in combat, once per turn in the shooting phase, you can choose a friendly unit of quarrelers, thunderers, or a dwarf war machine that's within command range to either re-roll any to hit rolls of a natural 1 or re-roll a single artillery dice. In addition, Burlock and any unit he's joined don't suffer the -1 to hit penalty for shooting at long range. So he wants to be in a big, fat unit of dwarf thunderers with move and shoot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or right beside an organ gun.
It can be both things. That's those are all true.
He gets to do it all. He's so good for 85 points. He's basically an engineer with a bonus.
Yes.
Right, yeah. And then he's got a hammer that gives him its strength value. You roll an artillery dice. If you roll a misfire, he just takes a wound and doesn't attack. And then his rivet gun is a 10-inch range, strength 3, -2, armor bane 1. If the hit roll is successful, the weapon causes D3 hits to the target enemy unit rather than just 1 hit. So if you hit, it does D3 strength 3 hits at 10 inches instead of just 1 hit, which is like whatever. His gun is pretty.
His gun is okay. It's
So-
it's not why you're taking it.
Does anybody know off the top of their head how many points a unit of Thunderers is?
Like a fully decked out unit of say like 20.
Just like
They're like
10 guys.
They're 12. So with great weapons, they're 12 points a model. 13 if you're in the expeditionary force and you take
Oh,
the
sure. Okay.
move and
Yeah.
shoot.
So just shooting efficiency wise, this guy almost doubles the efficiency of the unit shooting because they don't take the move and shoot penalty for being in the expeditionary force, and they don't take the -1 to hit for the 3/4 of the time they're going to be shooting at long range. So he almost is just like a 33% modifier on the unit plus some, and then has gun, entrench, and the rest. This guy is a freaking value package.
Yes.
And leadership 10.
And
Leadership 10. Leadership freaking 10.
And so he can be your general in an expeditionary force. He's great.
I think he's absolutely fantastic. Resolute is a nice little add-in as well there, which we may have missed. But yeah, and stubborn. I think this guy is the whole package for the expeditionary force. He's like, in my opinion, auto take.
He might be one of the most efficiently pointed characters in the game.
That's what I was
I agree.
about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you nailed it. I think in the past, most special characters have been like, this is cool. You could run him and you shouldn't feel bad for doing it. I think Burlock is the one like no matter how cool Ungram is, like you don't need to run Ungram to have a good list. I think Burlock, if you're like, he feels like the first auto take special character we've seen.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the special characters in the Arcane Journals have been like, here is the stat line of a tier above, but here's a tier less. Like I'm thinking about the damsel from Bretonian, level 3 instead of being level 4, but has special rules that kind of make it feel good enough. Yeah. Burlock has no downsides. There is nothing that you are not having to compromise on in any way with this model. It's just gas all the way down.
Like basically, it's just that he can't take a 24-inch range handgun. He has to take a 10-inch range shitty Magoo, which whatever.
But like when the fact is he gives +1 to hit to the squad he's joining, he might as well have 3 of those guns strapped together for the efficiency he's adding to the unit.
And here's the thing. Engineers are 50 points, guys. Just take another one. Just take him
exactly right.
and another one and take a sapper. And you still only use like 300 points of your list, and you have 3 awesome little packages to really enhance your army list.
So tell Danny, how big a deal is entrenching a model, entrenching a unit, and what does that do to change like the battle?
Well, so you're already, and remind me, maybe I'm forgetting this. So if you're behind a low linear obstacle, are you -1 to hit in the first round of combat, or is it just a dangerous terrain test for your opponent? No, it makes them disorder charge.
Makes them disorder charges, yes. Yeah. So they're at initiative.
So that's great. More importantly is the dangerous terrain test, I think. And the -1 to hit from being behind a low linear obstacle is also really nice. So it really increases their efficiency, like at range. While the close combat aspects of it are potentially debatable. I mean, it's nice if your opponent has great weapons or strikes last or initiative 1 so that you can go back to striking at the same time as them, because you should probably put great weapons on a big unit of Thunderers in this list. But I think it's a great value add. It's kind of incidental to me, though, like comparatively to like the other benefits. Honestly, his optics are better than that, I think.
Yeah, the optics is the big deal. It's the fact that he, like a regular engineer, gives you those rerolls, but he also gives you that ignoring long range. It's so
dang good. All right, moving on. We have gushed over Burlock more than enough. First of the generic characters is the Dwarf Engineer Sapper. Comes in at 70 points. Movement 3, weapon skill 4, bliss skill 5, strength and toughness 4, 2 wounds, 2 initiative, 2 attacks, leadership 9. Of course, unit size of 1, just regular old heavy infantry. I'm not going to tell you about special different weapons it can take. Special rules are Dig In, Dwarf Crafted, Grumble Armor, Hatred Orcs and Goblins, Magic Res 1, Resolute and Stubborn. Dig In is during any command subphase. If they are not engaged in combat, this character may attempt to lead their unit in the digging of some fieldworks while making a leadership test using their own leadership. 9. Great. If this test is passed, the character and any unit they have joined becomes entrenched. An entrenched unit is considered to be behind a partial cover and to be defending low linear obstacle. Should the unit move for any reason, is no longer entrenched, of course. And then hostile terrain. Any enemy model that ends its move within command range of 1 or more characters with this special rule that are not fleeing or engaged in combat must take a dangerous terrain test. So they're just bubbles of dangerous terrain all over the map. 70 points. So how much did you say regular NG was?
50. So you're paying an extra 20 for dangerous terrain tests. You lose the rerolls. But I think there's a couple things here. Dig In is different than Burlock's version because Dig In is because it's any command phase. So you can do it in your opponent's command phase as well. Like you can see what they're setting up to do and then be like, hey, I'm going to dig in on a unit, which is has some power to it in particular, like when it comes to defending against shooting. But that hostile terrain is crazy. Hilarious. It is hilarious in some army.
Well, the dig in doesn't say it's once per game.
No, you can. No. We were talking about this in another chat. Some people that are also under NDA and me about how it's questionable about if you could take a sapper, put it in a unit, turn 1, command phase, dig in, leave the unit, join another unit, and then in your opponent's command phase, dig in that other unit.
Yeah.
because the unit isn't moving, so they don't lose the dig in. It's just the one guy. Does that one guy leaving cause the whole unit to lose dig in? Anyway, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I would say yes, in let's be reasonable people, but also, live your life. Ask the TO. Put it on them. Not your problem.
Probably needs an FAQ.
It does.
So.
Yeah.
PD Baby. Once again, we've lined it up so you get to talk about the Doomseeker.
Oh my God. Okay, these guys are crazy.
Busted.
For a lot of reasons. You can run them multiple different ways. Let's start with the stat line. So these guys are 50 points base. They are movement 3. Okay. Weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 0, strength 5, tough 4, 2 wounds, initiative 3, 2d3 attacks each, leadership 10. They come equipped with whirling blades of death. They may take up to 50 points of weapon runes. So if you're running them with Ungrim, it's 75 points of weapon runes in the Royal Host. And they have 15 special rules. They have. I'm not joking. I think maybe 14.
I know you're not joking.
They have Death Blow, Doomseeker, First to the Fray, Bromrel Weapons, Hatred of Orcs and Goblins, Immune to Psychology, Impact Hits D3 plus 1, Loner, Magic Resist 2, Random Attacks, Resolute, Unbreakable, Vanguard, and Whirlwind of Death.
I'm somewhat incredulous that, a 4-foot bloke moving 3 inches a turn hits, with no armor on, hits hard enough to cause D3 plus 1 impact hits.
It's the whirling blades of death. It's because it's like one of those kids who puts his fists out and spins in a circle, right? It's like
you're telling me literal, a literal can of paint that is the Ironbreaker deals no impact hits when it hits you. I've watched Home Alone. Those paint cans effed those dudes up.
They did. He should have died. But anyway, let's get into these special rules. So Doomseeker, this is the rule we've mentioned already. Any model with the Doomseeker special rule, which is what their actual name is worth no victory points if they are slain. However, if the Doomseeker is still alive at the end of the game, for whatever reason, whether they're fleeing or not, the enemy player scores the victory points equal to their 100% of their points cost. First to the Fray, this model increases its maximum possible charge range by 3 inches, and when it makes a charge roll, it may apply plus D3 to the result. So these are fast little dudes.
Baby Swift Ride, yeah.
Baby Swift Ride, yeah. And then Whirlwind of Death. So impact hits caused by this model are resolved using the profile of its whirling blades of death. In addition, when this model makes a 2-wound roll, a roll of 4+ is always successful regardless of the target's toughness. This is wild. The reason why this is wild, on top of the 50 points of weapon runes, or 75 in Royal Host, we'll get into them later, but there's runic tattoos now, and runic tattoos are not points limited. They're limited by the type of Slayer that takes them, and Doomseekers can take 3 tattoos, which is the most anybody can take. So you can make a Doomseeker that's 200 points or more with a bunch of stacking abilities. For example, you can have one that ignores all armor saves, is +1 strength, +1 strength, ignores all armor saves, has hatred everything, reroll, gets an extra attack for every successful wound it does to an opponent, and it has a 3+ invulnerable save once it's taken a wound. So you can do some really crazy combos to make these guys worth a bunch of points that almost don't matter to you because you want them to die.
Yeah.
But they each can solo an entire unit. Easily do 8-9 wounds on average to very elite models. And then Mornfang. On top of that, you can also choose to just run them cheap. At 50 points with that stat line, pay an extra 15 or 30 to give them, AP on their whirling blades. They'll clear chaff like nobody's business. Yeah, so they already have 1 AP because of Grombo weapons, right? So so you can give them more for 15 points, give them a rune of striking or whatever. And now they're strength 5 AP2 65-point models with 2d3 attacks.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you can take at 65 points, you don't mind using these guys as chaff. And then maybe you have one that's decked up to the freaking nines to terrify somebody's dragon or the Blood Knights. And then you have like one or two that can kill still a huge amount of units in the game, but can be thrown away when needed.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of ways to do this. And then if you're not playing with Rule of 3, like seeing 8 of these guys on the field.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
That's 1,000 points that your opponent cannot get from you.
Correct.
Because if they die, and they are wild. So yeah, these guys are probably a little busted. We'll have to see. They have no save. They do just die to a swift breeze. So there's going to be a balance there to decide like how to run it. But man, they're so.
But they are characters, so if you stick them next to your units, they get protection.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You could even make a Slayer brick that had like a lot of them in it if you wanted
a cloud.
to.
Yep.
A cloud of Doomseekers. Yeah. All right, Danny. Next one.
The next one we have here is the Royal Clan Warriors. So Royal Clan Warriors have the same stat line as normal warriors. Weapon skill 4, strength 3, toughness 4, initiative 2, leadership 9. They're 10 points in model. They can take Grommel Great Axes, which we'll go over in a minute. They got full command options. They can take 75 points of runes. The veteran can take 25 points of weapon runes and 25 points of talisman runes, and you can buy them drilled, stubborn, or veteran for 1 point a model, or all of them. And that's 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 points. Can buy those abilities. And they have close order, Grommel armor, Grommel weapons, which is nice. Hatred, orcs and goblins, MR1, resolute, and shield wall standard. Grommel Great Axes are strength +2, AP -3. With requires 2-hand strikes last. So they're always armor baning all the time.
Yeah.
With their great weapons, which is pretty nice. For 10 points, they're a nice package.
Dude, one of the best great weapons in the game. Straight up.
Yeah.
Just one of the best generic, common item great weapons in the freaking game on these guys. Also of note, can purchase a standard up to 75 points, which goes to 100 points in the Royal Host.
No, it's 75. No. They mentioned
they already baked it in.
Yeah.
Did I miss the fine print? Fair enough.
In the Royal Host, they mention it.
Well, still, 75 is a lot and good
on a core choice.
Yeah,
on a core choice, it's they
and
are.
It comes standard with shields and heavy armor as well, which is nice.
Yeah, so you're basically paying 1 more point over a standard Dwarf Warrior because Dwarf Warriors have to pay for shields, so they don't.
Yeah.
They do have to replace their shield with the great axe. They don't get to pay for it in addition. I really like these guys in the Royal Host. They do a lot of good work. You kind of feel like you need a secondary brick to the hammers in that list, and also Grommel Great Weapons are rad as fuck. AP3 always is quite good.
Incredible. Can opener extraordinaires. Yeah, absolutely. I love these guys. I think they're fantastic. And to your point, I like a single unit of 18 to 24-ish. And I think they're always going to be value.
I even like Royal Clan Warriors as units of 12, so you get those minimum 4x3, because they still can do a lot of work as these protecting the flanks of your hammerers or whatever you're using as your main force. So
yeah, I mean, I use those size squads versus me. I thought they were pretty dang respectable.
Yeah, I ran 3 units of 12 against you. I probably would cut down to 2 of 12 or 2 of slightly bigger, 16 or something in the future. But yeah, it was they worked out really well. I was quite impressed.
Yep. Next one is Imperial Dwarf Mercenaries. These are 8-point dwarves. They pretty much are very stripped down dwarf warriors. So they have the same dwarf warrior stat line, weapon skill 4, strength 3, toughness 4, all that good stuff. They come with hand weapons and light armor, but then they are the stripped down, butt naked chassis of a dwarf warrior, because you can buy whatever you want from there. 2 points for great weapons, thrusting spears, which is an interesting choice, crossbows, handguns. You got veterans and command upgrades. You can replace light armor with heavy armor and take shields for an additional point each, and then all the good stuff: drilled, veteran, and a standard of 50 points. They come with close order, hatred, orcs and goblins, magic res 1, resolute, and shield wall. And they are pretty dang vanilla, and I'm not sure if they're ever going to get used. What do you think, boys?
I wish they were Motley Crue like the Ogre version.
That was exactly what I was about to say. They need Motley Crue to make this spicy. Like having a front rank of like shields and then, well, modeling it to be a front rank of shields and a back rank of spears or great weapons, and then crossbows behind that would have been sick.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. That's I feel like that's a missed opportunity for sure a little bit here. And I can't even see them. You can take them as Dogs of War and Empire and Dwarfen Holds too, but I can't see you taking them in Dwarf Holds. You can take 0 to 3 Doom Seekers in Empire armies. That seems like a buff for Empire.
Yeah, no. I like that.
No, Danny. No, I didn't want to know that.
Yeah, it's pretty good for them. But you'd never take these in dwarves. Maybe if you want. Like I don't even know why you would take these in Empire either. Like they're quite customizable, but like just don't do it, guys. And we're gonna say this, and then someone's gonna be like, "Well, you fucked up," and they're gonna come up with this crazy combo. But for now, believe us, it's terrible. Everybody else is wrong.
Yeah,
unless they're
correct.
saying the same thing. Then
If they're saying the same thing, they're 100% correct. Danny, tell us about the Scout Gyro.
All right, so the Scout Gyrocopter is kind of a toned-down regular gyrocopter. They come in at 60 points a pop. You're looking at weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, and toughness, all of 4. 3 wounds, initiative 2, 2 attacks, leadership 9. It's monstrous cavalry on a 50x50. You can take them in units of up to 2. They have heavy armor and a clatter gun, which is the same as the normal gyrocopter one. So multiple shots, D6 with move and shoot, quick shot, dwarf crafted armor bane 1 at strength 4 -1 AP. They have extended formation, so they only have to be within 3 inches of each other rather than just 1. I feel like there's something there that I haven't really considered. That seems like it's probably a pretty good rule, actually. And then they have hit and run. So instead of if they win a round of combat, they can choose to fall back in good order instead of making a follow-up per pursuit move.
That's cool.
And they have the rules Armor Bane 1. So that stacks with Armor Bane on their gun. That's interesting. Dwarf crafted, move and shoot. Oh, wow. Hold on. Did they just copy and paste the special rules for the gun above the special rules for the gun? Okay, sorry. They have extended formation, fire and flee, which is great. Fly 10, which is a 1 point increase over the normal gyrocopter. Hatred Orcs and Goblins, hit and run, impact hits D3, MR1, skirmisher, swift stride, and vanguards. They don't actually have scout, even though they're called Scout gyrocopter.
Yep.
The -1 toughness and armor save are downgrades.
Yes,
but
and so you're paying 5 points less than from the clatter gun's regular gyrocopter, because the regular gyro has to pay 5 points for the clatter, right? Or is it 10? It's 5, right? It's the brimstone that's 10.
Yeah.
Anyway, you get magic resist 1. You get an additional pip of movement. Extended formation seems okay. Unit size 2 versus unit size 6.
Yeah, that's the one that gets me, right? Because the extended formation, like the idea of having 4 or 5 of these guys with extended formation and just like zoning off or blocking off a whole portion of the board to get another turn or 2 of shooting sounds good, but with 1 or 2 you can't do that. You actually can't do that. The extended formation rule is almost a nothing burger because of the unit size.
So actually the clatter gun is the 10.1, so you are getting a 10-point discount on the gun at least. I definitely would take them because they're core and expedition force, and it's the only place you can take these guys anyway. So as a core option, I think they're pretty cool. Yeah. I don't think you losing bombing run, losing the defenses though, it's really it's rough. Hit and run is not a great rule for these guys because they don't do a lot of damage. If you're playing against orcs and goblins, I guess it's awesome because you're going to kill a bunch of wolf riders and shit, these guys. But that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you factor in that you now have a core choice gyro and then the other gyros open to you as well, you really can go for the Sky Fleet if you wanted to.
Yeah. I think there's definitely space for that.
Yeah, and that could be very cool.
At 60 points though, and you can take them in core. I think they're really good for their points. They feel, and they dwarves need this unit badly. The 20-inch move and still shoot. Technically 30 turn 1 if you really want to. There's definitely power there. It's the same power as the regular gyro. It's but you're getting a 10-point savings.
Yeah, so, and you're soaking up your core tax.
Yep.
So I think they're very good. I'm not enamored with the rules and the stat line, but the form and function of them when you put them in your list and pull them on the table, I think they're superstars in the Expedition Force. All right, last one. We have the pony carts.
The pony cart. Not
PD
the last
baby.
one, second last one.
PD baby, take it away.
The dwarf cart. So 65 points gets you a really mediocre chariot with some cool special rules. So the dwarf cart is strength 4, toughness 5, 3 wounds, movement 6. It's got one dwarf on top of it with a hand weapon, who is weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 3. Same like dwarf stat line. Leadership 8. He's a really cowardly dwarf. The draft pony is only weapon skill 3, strength 3, initiative 3 with 1 attack. So like you're not using this for its combat potential. It's got D3 impact hits, magic resist 1, resolute, open order. The big thing here is you can take one of 2 variants, and both variants are free. You're not paying to get them. Bugman's cart or the miner's cart. In a standard Dwarfold list, you can take either or. If you are running these guys in the Royal Host, you can only take Bugman's cart. It doesn't let you take the miner cart. Bugman's cart, during the command subphase of their turn, any dwarf unit that is not fleeing or engaged in combat and is within 6 inches of the Bugman's cart gets +1 to their movement characteristic until the end of the turn.
Huge.
Note, this is not cumulative, so you can't use multiple Bugman's
You mean
carts.
it's not a Mortis engine? Well, I'm
It's
outraged.
not a Mortis engine for some reason.
I'm furious, mate.
And the miner's cart, any dwarf unit within 3 inches of a miner's cart that is not fleeing or engaged in combat can choose to take stand and shoot charge reactions or make shooting attacks as if they're equipped with blasting charges, which are 6-inch range, strength 3, AP 1. Additionally, when a miner's cart loses its last wound to an enemy attack in a combat phase, you can roll a D6, and on a 4+, it explodes. And every unit within 3 inches takes D6 strength 3 hits, AP 1, the flaming attacks rule. These are a rare slot in the regular dwarf lists. In Expeditionary Force, they're core, and in the Royal Host, I believe they're special.
Right?
Oh, they okay. So the miner's cart is not good. Just I don't know. I guess you could take it, but I wouldn't. Bugman's cart, though, +1 movement, even with the fact that it's not like the best chassis in the game, +1 movement is great. And I would hazard you should take one in most lists.
I would say you should take one. I also like that when
it's special in Royal Host. My bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I also love the duality of how this works with the double move off the anvil, as in like you get an extra another inch of move should you still be within 6 inches after that one. Of course, you move the unit +1 inch, move up the cart behind it, double move it with the anvil, go another extra inch. I think Bugman's cart is a very necessary unit.
So
in most, and I would pretty much always start with a 1 of.
The thing about that is you only check in the command phase, so it always gets the +1 move from the.
Oh, true. It can move out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have like a drilled unit, you can march them 12 inches, and then use the anvil to double move, and then reform and move and march an additional 8 in a regular format. So like a 20-inch move on your dwarf, whatever you want to take, hammerers or ironbreakers, is pretty good.
Yeah, agreed. Danny, baby, you got the last one. The Hewer.
Oh, the old Hewer. Malachi, what's his face's famous invention.
Well-known Malachi, what's his facing?
Yeah. It's a really power. It's a standard dwarf name, really.
Yeah.
So it's 120 points. It is a war machine. It's toughness 6 instead of 7, unlike most other dwarf machines or most other dwarf war machines. And 3 wounds. Crew has 3 Slayer crew?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. Although it doesn't actually say that anyway. Anyway, so do they just have one?
Apparently, it's saying they have one guy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You can take engineering runes on it up to 50 points. It's got hatred, orcs and goblins, immune to psych, MR1, skirmishers, and unbreakable. The goblin hewer itself, it's 36-inch range, strength 4, -1 AP, armor bane 1. It has the cumbersome, mover, shoot, and whirling doom special rules, and it uses the stone thrower misfire chart. So the whirling doom, with a single salvo of spinning axes, a goblin hewer can cut through several ranks of enemy troops. When shooting a goblin hewer, roll an artillery dice before making any rolls to hit. This is the number of shots that are fired, plus a D3 modifier, which you get per rank of the enemy unit or per file if you're in the flank charge. And this is also incomplete ranks count for an extra D3. So like if you shoot at a unit of 20 guys, 5 wide, 4 deep, you're going to be getting an artillery dice plus 4 D3 shots if you're shooting at them from the front.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not a bad amount.
No. If you roll a misfire, though, on the artillery dice, no shots are fired, and you have to roll on the misfire chart. You can take it, any army using the Dwarf Mountain Holds Grand Army, you can take one or more, or that includes one or more Slayers of Legends. So you have to take a Slayer hero. You can take 1 per 1,000 points as a rare choice. It's kind of
it's cute. It's cute, man. It's real wild. Yeah, it's real wild. Well, so you can roll the artillery dice and get, 10 shots? And then you can be shooting into something that's in 6 ranks deep, shooting at some clan rats because, they need to be punished. And just have, another couple of D3 per rank. It's, wild.
Yeah, I think in a different game, this is great.
In 8th edition, this would have been freaking amazing. This would have replaced the organ gun. But as it is right now, it's awkward. It's not too expensive though. 120 isn't breaking the bank, but also you don't love spending it in a matchup where it does nothing. If you just roll up into Warriors of Chaos, this thing maybe kills 8 Warrior of Chaos a turn.
If that, because you are still at Ballistic Skill 3.
Correct.
Because it's a Slayer that's trying to figure out how to use it instead of a regular dwarf. It's cute, like you said, and there are going to be some games if you choose to run this where it's just going to go crazy and kill a bunch of shit.
The important thing is when you put the Goblin Hero on the table, you're cool as can be.
Yeah.
So you've already won. You're already a winner. All right, moving on. We have runic tattoos. These represent some characters that may purchase runic tattoos. These cannot be duplicated on the same model, and no 2 characters in your army can have the same combination of runic tattoos. So Doomseekers may purchase up to 3, Demon Slayers may purchase up to 2, and Dragon Slayers may purchase a single runic tattoo. The first of which is Rune of the Dishonored. Demon Slayers and Dragon Slayers only. Once a model with this runic tattoo is reduced to their last wound, they gain a 3+ ward save against any further wounds suffered. However, at the end of the battle, a model with this runic tattoo that has been slain is worth no victory points. If it is still alive, the enemy player is rewarded with 100% of points cost. You're adding the Doomseeker downside to whatever you put this on.
Mm-hmm. So you add the Doomseeker downside, but you get a 3+ ward save out of it, which is not awful.
It's pretty good. 50 points. I think you can do better. 50 points in these runes, but it's not bad.
No.
All right, we're gonna go Dustin, who's not on this show, because I was just gonna say that's funny. We're gonna go Danny and we're gonna go Peter.
Okay. So Rune of Endless Battle is 40 points. Those who hear this tattoo, bear this tattoo struggle to contain their rage once battle begins. During the command phase of any turn in which a model with this runic tattoo charged, every attack it makes that causes an unsaved wound allows it to immediately make 1 additional attack. Note that any additional attacks that cause unsaved wounds and any unsaved wounds caused by the impact's X rule do not benefit from this special rule.
This is so good.
It's very good.
So very good.
This is what makes your Doomseekers go wild. In some combats, most combats. Love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think
it is 40 points. You're basically doubling your Doomseeker's point cost to take this, but it's worth it.
I think so. Beady baby.
Rune of the Reckless, 35 points. Slayers that bear this tattoo Fight with a burning and uncontrollable fury. A model with this runic tattoo gains frenzy and has a +1 modifier to their rolls to hit. However, enemy models that target this model in combat have +1 to hit against them. So it's like you get +1, they get +1, you get frenzy. This is kind of cool. I'm always scared of frenzy on a unit that's often going to be by itself. So you have 360 charges that you now have control over. But the +1 to hit means that most of your Slayer stuff is now going to be hitting on 2s. And if you kill enough stuff, they can't hit you back anyway.
Yep, I agree. I actually like this. I actually like this for literally just putting this on a Doomslayer and then just letting it butcher. And it doesn't matter if it's got frenzy because it's meant to die. So who cares? The only issue is the frenzy baiting. Somebody like frenzy baiting into you, like running into a wrong direction, or you block your own charges and stuff like that. Rune of the Hateful, which is 30 points. A model with this runic tattoo has hatred all enemies.
So good.
Ooh, so very good. Arguably better for 5 less points than the previous one.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to miss. It's worse to. What's better, +1 to hit or not missing? Yeah. Well, it's actually better. Like, because you're not always going to be hitting on 2s with the other one. It could be, 4s going to 3s. 4s re-rolling versus just flat 3s. It's virtually the same thing, but the re-rolls can spike, whereas the others kind of can't. Danny.
So you've got Rune of Grit, 25 points. This is a model with this runic tattoo has +1 modifier to its toughness characteristic. So great spend for 25 points. Toughness is one of those abilities that's always really hard to upgrade. But this makes your Slayer characters just a little bit more tough. I don't know if it's great, but it's fine.
Rune of the Dauntless, 15 points. Days marked with this rune, seek the deadliest foes to challenge in single combat.
We're going to get complaints. We're going to get complaints.
So you say that every time, and then all we get is a flood of love. A model with this runic tattoo must always issue and accept challenges. During a challenge, this model re-rolls any failed rolls to hit. This is cute. It's especially if you've like already kind of worked out whatever other combo you can with Rune of Endless Battle, or not. The Rune of the Hateful. Maybe you're just trying to like sneak in a different way to get hatred. This could be it. Or instead of putting this on a Doomseeker, this is like if you do choose to take a Demon Slayer, maybe you make him like a little Bretonia boss, where he's just about challenging your enemy's garbage and forcing them to punch him back.
Yep, fair. All right, Rune of Wrath, 15 points. A model with this tattoo has a +1 modifier to its attacks characteristic. Very nice. So that'll be 2d3 +1 attacks on the Doomseeker, which is pretty sick.
Yeah.
15 points +1 attack, very good. You can combo that with the Frenzy one and just absolutely pop off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did Danny.
We got Warrior's Rune for 10 points. Only the most skilled warriors are permitted to bear this mark upon their flesh. Model with this runic tattoo have a +1 modifier to their weapon skill characteristic. It's fine. It's good to go from like 6 to 7 on a Dragon Slayer. But otherwise, I don't know if I would take this all the time.
Yeah. And then lastly, the Rune of Blazing Fury. The rage of the ancestors burns brightly within this fiery rune. You get flaming attacks for 5 points.
Yep.
If Joll hordes are a problem for you, man, run it.
Like, hopefully you got people at home understand that like the 50-point rune is actually pretty good. But my God, the combination of stuff you can do with some of the cheaper ones, I think are vastly superior.
Like if you want to go all out, getting Rune of Endless Battle, Rune of the Hateful, and Rune of Wrath, let's say, on a Doomseeker is a very potent combination because now you're 2d3 +1 hits plus d3 +1 impact hits. Every wound that you cause is an extra attack, and you have full re-rolls to hit in the first round of combat. You will generally like wipe out entire front ranks at the very least of stuff with ease.
Agreed. All right, on to engineer weapon runes. So the first of which is Master Rune of Slaying, which is 50 points. When making a to wound roll against an enemy whose troop type is Behemoth with a weapon inscribed with this rune, a 3+ is always successful to wound regardless of toughness. In addition, a weapon inscribed with this rune gains the multiple wounds D3 special rule.
So just to, sorry.
Yeah, go.
Just sorry to cut you off. I just want to explain what engineer runes are. Engineer weapon runes are runes that can be taken by any character, but only be put on crossbows and handguns. This is the new rune set, other than the tattoos. So,
yeah, good catch, mate. And you didn't well actually me, which I really appreciate.
You're welcome.
What do you think about this one, Danny?
That's nice. It's nice to have like effectively what's a war machine on a character for 50 points, although it's probably with this combined with the actual cost of the character probably costs about the same amount as like a cannon. Mm-hmm. So
take a cannon.
I don't know, but ballistic skill 5 is nice, especially when you're rerolling 1s to hit. So, and wounding on a 3 is what you're going to wound on with a cannon. You're just not going to get the same kind of armor penetration that you would.
Mm. Yeah, that's exactly what I feel like. I feel like you would only take this if you're already taking a cannon or 2 as well, and you just really wanted to double, triple down on it. The 3+ to wound is nice, though.
Yeah. So the next one we have is the Master Rune of Piercing, 40 points. A weapon inscribed with this rune has a +1 modifier to strength. In addition, a weapon inscribed with this rune shoots like a bolt thrower using the through and through special roll. So it penetrates ranks. I think that's cool. But I don't know if it's 40 points cool, but it's interesting. Maybe if you're combining it with some of these other weapon runes, I can see that being. Can you only take one of these on a guy?
You can take as many as you have runic points.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure that there's some combinations here. You're going to see that this makes this even more interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Next up is the Master Rune of Bursting Flame, and this is the best of the runes. Just saying it right now. This one by far is better than all of the other ones. You will take this in every list you have an engineer in, I believe. So it's 35 points on contact with the enemy. The shot from weapons inscribed with this powerful rune explodes in a shower of burning fragments. You're launching grenades now. If the roll to hit is successful with this weapon, it causes 2d3 hits to the target enemy unit rather than the usual 1 hit. So now your handgun or your crossbow that's hitting on 2s or 3s most of the time with your engineer is popping off and potentially wiping out entire chaff units with a single shot. It's
fireball at home. It's literally
fireball at home, and you can combo it with some of these other runes. One other rune in particular for maximum damage. So,
agreed. All right, next one we have Rune of Concussive Force, 30 points. Unit hit by an attack made with this weapon described with this rune gains the Stupidity special rule until the start of your next turn subphase. So you're just whipping out stupidity on units. Can be cute because it's just a hit roll. You don't need a wound, don't need the wound to go through or then take damage. A hit roll. So this can be kind of juicy on some low. There are some units that are very susceptible to this.
I think it's pretty cute.
Make the peg knights stupid. Make them.
Yeah,
make it so.
That'd be hot.
Make it so.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
There's a lot of chaff out there too that you could do this to. That's often outside of general's leadership range. That will suffer from stupidity. So I like that for that. Rune of Accuracy, though, that costs 20 points. A weapon inscribed with this rune doesn't suffer any negative to hit modifiers.
Wow.
So now you can do your 2d3 hits with into skirmishers in cover that are way watchers and make sure they really die
and hit them on 3s.
It is. I know for a fact I was told that this used to be cheaper, and then the engineer combo was just too deadly. So now at least you can't combo this on an engineer. Your best bet is on a ballistic skill 4 model. It's still very powerful.
Agreed. I think it's superstar.
Yeah, it's even just great on a standard engineer without the bursting flame. Just to have like always hitting on 2s is nice. Yeah. Rune of Rapid Fire. This is 15 points, and you can do it with the bursting flame rune, and you will. At 15 points,
Thanks to some clever innovation and a specially crafted rune, this weapon can unleash a salvo of rounds in the time it takes similar weapons to fire a single shot.
This is your gun kata combo, because a weapon inscribed with this rune gains multiple shots to end quick shot. So now you're shooting twice at ballistic skill 5, and every hit is 2d3 hits for 50 points on a guy. That's a pretty good combo. That's pretty spicy.
That's a spicy meatball, Peter.
Quick shot is nice.
I wonder why people won't take organ guns anymore. I've got an engineer. He's just an organ gun. He's just a bit of an organ gun. You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of times where your one engineer is just going to blow away like 6 or 7 dudes, and you're just going to be like, "Yep, that was me."
All right. Rune of Molten Steel, 10 points. A weapon described with this rune gains flaming attacks. Whoop-de-doo. There you go. Was always going to be there. Is always going to be there. Taking up slots in everyone's trees and everyone's item slots is just always going to be like, congrats on the flaming for 5 or 10 points.
Yep.
Danny, give us
As a Trolls player, don't take this. This is a shitty item.
Terrible.
It's just not good. Like, spend your points on other stuff for sure.
I just don't know why Bursting Flame didn't also get flaming attacks.
That was a weird one to me as well. I thought about that.
Because it's an explosion.
Because it's an explosion.
Because explosions aren't fire. We all know that.
No. the damage all comes from the blast, Adam.
It's true.
True. Physics major.
Of course. It does.
I've never taken damage from being on fire.
No, not even one.
The enchanted rune is 5 points. It gives you magic.
I mean, I like magic. I'd take some magic. Can I have the magic in me?
It's cool if you're like dealing with a lot of ethereal stuff, I guess. It's probably not something you do. You don't. Yeah. Probably not. If you have 5 points, I'm sure there's something else in your list you can take the 5 points.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to the end of the review of this Dwarfen Mountain Hold Arcane Journal. Now, we're going to do our usual scoring matrices, but closing thoughts first up. This is... So I didn't expect more, but I wanted this book to allow dwarves to do something they weren't already doing. And that's kind of not what they've done here. What they've done here is that they've made the two major identities of the dwarves more compressed. If you love your brawly, grindy bricks of, steel and axes, that's going to be better. If you like your Daka gun line with a bit of jank from miners and stuff like that, that's going to be better in this book too. But if you wanted like a fast, dynamic dwarf army, not here for it. And it was never going to happen probably. Danny, what do you think?
I think that I think that's probably a pretty fair assessment of this entire book. I like the movement shenanigans that you can do with the expeditionary force. So if you are looking for that aspect, like a more movement style aspect of dwarves, being all over the table with miners is probably pretty fun. Mm-hmm. I think this is a really nice addition to the book, and it adds a lot of new units to their profiles, some of which are just extremely important for the army to function overall well. Like the carts are insanely powerful. Like for this army specifically is an amazing choice. And then some of the other units are really cool, and the armies have fun and flavorful rules. So I think they knocked it out of the park.
Peter.
Yeah, I think Warhammer Community just did an article from the actual rules designers about why they did what they did with the book. And reading that, like, I came to have a better appreciation. Like, I already liked the book. Don't get me wrong. I just kind of came into it. I was so high on orcs and goblins because it really came up with two very different army lists. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of hoping for something the same with this, and we didn't quite get that. But what you did get, especially if you're a big dwarf fan, we have so many in our Patreon. Like it's the busiest channel by far is people just chatting up dwarves. Like it gives you so many powerful tools. Like we talked up Doomseeker's Hard. The cart is a great addition to the army. Sappers are wicked. That dangerous terrain test within 9 inches is wild. Like there's a lot of really fun stuff. That miners thing, I've only gotten to play one game as Expeditionary Force, but it was hilarious. Like the stuff you can do with it. And the more I played, the more I was like, oh man, if I'd done this instead. Like there's just a lot of play lines with this book that you didn't have before. So yeah, I think it's a really good addition to the army.
Yeah, I think overall this is a huge boon to dwarfs. It might not be everything that everyone wanted, but I really love the optics of what these lists are going to look like. These army lists are going to look like from this Arcane Journal. All right, Danny, how happy do you think a dwarf player will be with this book out of 10?
I think like an 8 is probably a pretty fair assessment. Like I'd be pretty happy with it as a dwarf player, I think, if I got this. Like especially if you compare the other books or the other Arcane Journals and what they gave to armies, I think this is comparable. And so for me, it would be an 8.
Go, Peter.
Yeah, I agree. I would say this is an 8. This is on par with Tomb Kings and Bretonnia at the very least. Orcs and Goblins was a flavor high for me. I've said it a few times.
10 out of 10. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 flavor.
Yeah.
But like from a power perspective, Troll Hordes is great. Like there's power there. But it didn't enhance the main power of the Orc book. It just gave you some cool units, and I loved it. This one, I think, enhances the power of dwarves. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is on par with Tomb Kings. I think Bretonians is a little bit worse because I think the Bretonian book has only really brought tech pieces to that army overall. But I think the Orcs and Goblins is the gold standard for the Arcane Journals right now. So I do put this middle of the pack. I'll give this a 7 or 8 as well. Where do we think this is going to put dwarves? Is this going to overall change where they are in our collective upper, middle, and lower tier power rankings?
I don't think so. I think this keeps them pretty much where they're at.
Yeah.
But it keeps them competitive with some of the other new options that other armies are getting. I think it maybe I'd take that back. It probably makes them better, but I don't think it's like a super appreciable amount.
I think it gives you a rock paper scissors option. In the meta more than anything.
Well, for the most part, I think all the current bad matchups for dwarves against the Royal Host are going to remain exactly the same bad matchups.
I agree.
The good matchups are going to get much better. They're just going to be like Rickroll, walk at them. They can't stop you. You kill them. But I'm really excited to see if the Expedition Force can push the envelope for people, because I think that one has the capacity to take some of the bad matchups and make them far more playable. So really excited to see what that is. But once again, I think they are in the middle to upper middle tier. I don't think they're into the upper tier echelon yet. No. And I don't think this book will do that, just because of the innate downside of the movement statistic and the fact that they're shooting, whilst one of the best in the game, it isn't still enough to win a game in a lot of circumstances. But on that note, we are going to check out. Hopefully you have enjoyed this expose of the Dwarfen Mountain Holds Arcane Journal. We definitely enjoyed unpacking this book. If you'd like to get the part 2 of this episode, go over to Patreon and search up that Old World Charm. We're going to be doing a good, solid another hour answering all the patent questions, unpacking some of those juicy matchups that we just mentioned, and talking about how to build some lists with these 2 new builds. Gentlemen, say anything else you'd like to say about the dwarves and your good nights.
Good night, my babies.
You've been listening to That Old World Charm with those charming chaps, Adam, Danny, and Peter the Falcon. Thanks ever so much. Cheerio.